Magnificent Mavens releases on November 4th. Now, I've always been a big fan of women. Some of my best friends are women. So when I found out Konami planned to release a pack dedicated exclusively to women and to their ally Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, it made me proud to play the only card game that supports women and Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. God bless the United States of America. Here's everything you need to know. Dread it. Run from it. ISHIZU arrives all the same. Non-archetypal series of retrains of cards used by ISHIZU, Ishtar, and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime series. Real. After around 6 months in import limbo after the dissolution of Duelists of Pyroxene, during which Power of the Elements got custody of Telephon, we finally have the meta-defining ISHIZU cards the OCG has been playing with all this time. Now be honest with me. How many of you have read them? Agito the Ancient Sentinel can summon itself from hand and reborn an Earth Fairy if a card is sent from your opponent's hand or deck to the graveyard, and if it's sent from your hand or deck to the graveyard, both players mill 5, then you can mill 5 more if Exchange of the Spirit is in the graveyard. Kelbeck does the same thing, but bounces a special summon monster in its first effect, and sets any trap from graveyard in its second effect. Mudora and Keldo each banish themselves as a quick effect to shuffle 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard into the deck, 5 if Exchange of the Spirit is in the graveyard, and also discard another Earth Fairy to summon themselves. Mudora places Gravekeeper's Trap from deck, and Keldo searches Exchange of the Spirit, or a card that mentions it. Gravekeeper's Trap is a continuous trap card that keeps your opponent from activating effects in the graveyard or summoning monsters from the graveyard while Exchange of the Spirit is in the graveyard. Also, you can discard a card to search a Gravekeeper or an Earth Fairy monster. There's also a third effect that might come up if you're a Call It God. Would you believe me if I've told you I've seen someone play this deck pure? These cards have completely dominated the OCG metagame, letting decks like Tyr blitz through their deck at an unprecedented pace. Agito and Kelbeck can get your Tyr effects to snowball like crazy, while Mudora and Keldo can act as supercharged DD Crows to keep anything your opponent milled from bothering you. And if you get to Gravekeeper's Trap in your combo, you can completely shut down the Mirror and several other matchups. In addition, being fairies allows you to use cards like Orange Light and Diviner to get your mills going. Although it's been experimented with in several decks, it's impossible to ignore the stranglehold ISHIZU Tyr has had over the metagame, and with Tyr already coming off a ban list that barely affected them and a new wave of support, it's scary to think what this deck will do to our format. Is there even anything else in this set? What does that Witchcrafter card do? Confusion Confession is poly but worse, and it adds itself back during the end phase, but not the same one you used it, because Witchcrafter was well designed instead of being broken. Rookie mistake. Vice Madame has a quick effect you can activate in response to the activation of a spell or a spellcaster that either pops, reborns, or adds back from graveyard. It's a cool card, filling the roles of recursion, board presence, removal, and interruption all in one effect. Doesn't really fix Witchcrafter's Ash Blossom problem though, and being a quick effect that needs to chain to one of your own cards makes it a little annoying to enable, but still an impressive addition to the deck's options. Yuki-Onna, the Icicle Mayakashi, no you don't get it, it's the third Yuki-Onna that gets you, can negate a monster on summon and can quick effect banish itself from the graveyard to summon a zombie synchro from graveyard or banished. Ghost Meets Girl contribute a Mayakashi or Shiranui synchro or link to lock both players from summoning from hand, deck, or extra deck for the turn. It's always frustrating when a bad deck gets a great big fucking floodgate, because on one hand that won't suddenly make the deck tier 1 or tier 2 or even good, but who exactly is happy about this? I'm pretty sure people who play these two decks because they enjoy the playstyle don't feel like a card that says, I summon one of my extra deck monsters and set a card so I win really helps them. Not to mention, you probably don't even have to play Mayakashi or Shiranui to play this card. Both decks have some extra deck monsters that are either generic or only need zombies, so if you're on like Zombie World Eldritch or something, you can throw it in as a fun of. Honestly feels foolish not to expect Tyr to find some way to enable this card by next week. Shit, you can make this happen in Sword Soul if you were determined enough. I don't want to make it sound like this is going to be some sort of ridiculous problem for the metagame, but when Konami prints another lingering I win floodgate, all you can really say is, who asked? Surgical Striker Hump is a kaiju. They got a searchable kaiju. I don't know why, they just made a Sky Striker kaiju. A Skyju, if you will. Linkage sends a card you control to the graveyard to summon an ace from extra, then locks you into strikers from the extra for the turn. This card reads like an attempt to balance Hornet drones around what was presumably the original intent, giving you the ability to summon an ace even when you don't draw a main deck striker, but now at the cost of a card on field to keep you from looping it, requiring an EMZ to summon it so you couldn't loop it if you tried, and a striker lock so you can't use the free body to summon other generic link monsters. Does this kill the card's chances? I wouldn't say so. Striker still only has 2 main deck aces, so more ways to summon an ace is always welcome. Going -1 might be the biggest issue, but it's still a good option for the deck to mess around with. To go with the new strikers, they also reprinted most of the striker cards, which nobody really asked for, because the most expensive striker card left is Shizuku at $4. They also reprinted all the Mayakashis. Let's see what their most expensive card was. Damn, what a coincidence. But the main event here is, of course, the Sword Souls, which they reprinted literally every single one of. Yes, even Iris. Yes, even Assessment. Yes, even Chun-Jun. There's also Therion reprints. No, not those ones, silly. I'm talking about Duke and Bull, who I assume were paired up to make them sound like a pair of school bullies from a 90s kids show. Millennium Eyes Restrict has finally made it into a set people will actually buy. Cat Shark purchasers are in shambles. Predaplant and Adventure players will never have to play non-shiny cardboard again. New Toad reprint just in time to add insult to injury for Paleo Frog fans. Trapchick Sarah made the cut in anticipation of the upcoming structure deck. Duster, Scapegoat, and Change of Heart made it for their Reformed DM Staples Anonymous meeting. Meanwhile, Triple Tactic and Lightning Storm pulled through to beat them up in the parking lot. We got 7 Floodgates, Imperm, IDP, and of course, the G-Golem token. What is the G-Golem token? You see, the G-Golems are a series of Earth Cyberus monsters that are not in this set and aren't in the TCG at all yet, but they decided we need the G-Golem token now! Now, if you're not a fan of the phrase, peak product, fire, goat, then this ain't the video for you. For my estimation, this set has the perfect mixture of good reprints for budget players and rarity bumps for max rarity addicts, all tied together with some great new cards to shift up the metagame.
It has a little something for everyone.
Also, and this is true, in 1776, Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, declared that his sword is the sword of truth, justice, and the American way, and he will stop at nothing to defeat the British and give America the freedom to play Sword Soul at a reasonable price point. With his fellow patriots, Doug Zeef, and the G-Golem token, he defeated King George III and ended sexism permanently. God bless you, and good night!